So I'm not much of a PowerPoint person. Usually I'm used to just kind of stepping into a space or a room and kind of just like letting intuition and just what does the room need. But I put some thoughts together because at first I identify like as an artist first and foremost. Like all the other stuff is kind of just like, I guess, checkpoints along the way, like onboarding new skills, onboarding new friendships, relationships, and kind of expanding how I identify in the world as an artist. So through that lens, like I landed on meditation, but hopefully we can kind of contextualize. I'm contextualizing this like as we speak too. So this is like, I'm like learning in real time. So that's me. You see the resemblance? All right, so we're gonna go into, like this is the concept that I was thinking about yesterday. I was like merging art and spirituality because I saw like, oh, spirituality is the thing, but it's like, what is spirituality? Like, I know it's kind of like niche these days and everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, spirituality, but like what is it? Is it tarot card readings? Like, is it the stars? Like, what is it exactly? I've always identified as an artist. I've always drawn and I've had an artistic practice, whether that's painting or whatever, but I haven't always had a spiritual practice. And yesterday I recorded a podcast and like I asked my friend like, what is spirituality? And he was like, I don't know. And I tried my best to describe it. But the way I described it was having a relationship to the higher level of consciousness that we are all children of. Like we see ourselves as part of the whole instead of just like this separate ego, like I'm a human and then there's this veil, but like embracing all that's on the other side of the veil. And we can get there through meditation, through other substances, through breath work and all those other types of things. But how do we see ourselves in relationship to a larger whole in the people that are around us? So that's what I think spirituality is nurturing that relationship, but it's a conscious decision to nurture that relationship and foster that of being like, oh, thank you, God, or whomever, Mother Nature, whatever that being is or whatever that energy is. So that's kind of my ongoing definition of what spirituality is. So merging art and spirituality starts with meditation for me. Like, it's the one thing that I know that I'm actively creating that relationship to the divine, like to source, clearing out all of the misconceptions, all the things that have been fed into me through culture since I was little, like of not being worthy enough, growing up in pretty much an all-white school, looking around for cues as to, is the way that I'm acting right now like accepted? And a lot of the times it was kind of like, oh, you have to be this other person. So meditation for me was first, it was like healing. How do you create self-acceptance? How do you create love? Like there's all the good things that everyone talks about. Not too many people have a consistent practice. But as this practice kind of evolves over the years, I'm starting to think about like, what does it give me on the other side, like as a creative? So as you see, as an artist, like I've learned to trust my intuition and not judge the things that I create. I know if there's any artists in this room or any creatives in this room, it's like we just hyper-focus on like this one thing, and it's just like we're hitting it from all sides, and we're judging and having kind of like an emotional attachment to these things that we create, like we can't do another thing. It's like, no, you can, like once you like finish something, you can move on to the next thing instead of letting it fester for years and years and years. And as a young artist, I would like hyper-conceptualize things, and then like I wouldn't do them. So they would just be in this like pre-execution stage for like months. See, you resonate with that? Where it's just like, oh, here's this thing and I gotta make it perfect and I gotta like carve out the edges and it's gotta, you haven't even taken a step yet. Like you haven't even moved one step on like the path of like completion. And what my practice has done for me is like remove all the judgment, and I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, it's like, how do I engage with the contents of what I'm trying to express? And a lot of the times there's mistakes in it. Like, I don't care. It's like, that mistake that you have is your unique signature that nobody else can replicate. So learning to embrace all of those things, because nobody can do what you can do. So the meditation practice, I know like this isn't like full on like workshop meditation mode. This is like extending beyond the practice of healing my heart and like learning to love myself. But I've learned that I give myself my own validation, and literally, like I was just speaking with Vaughn about like the things that we identify with as like our highest creative expression are literally like the things that are like around us and a part of us. It's not something that I have to like get up and like try to become something else or I don't know, interpret what I think a society should be. It's like, what are the things that are around me that I've ignored, and how can I onboard those things and shine light to those things that I've cast away in the shadows of my existence? It's just rediscovering those things and rebuilding that relationship and validating them, because like now it's like, oh, this is all content. This is all things that I can share that haven't been shared before. So yeah, meditation is my foundation. And it allows me to have boundless creativity, not confined to medium. So at this point right now, it's like, I feel like my creative practice is like everything. Like going to the gym in the morning, like working out, creating health. How do you create optimal health? Like I was just speaking to Naomi, we were talking about being sober from alcohol. Like that was a decision that we both made, and these are all like, we're all creating in every single moment. Like every single conversation that you have, like you're creating a feeling within your body, you're exchanging energy. Like if you ate the donut, you're probably feeling that right now. It's like we're constantly modulating and creating in every single moment. So taking that hyper attention on like what our art is, and kind of like relaxing into like, no, I'm creating absolutely everything. Why are we focusing just on the painting? Or why are we focusing so much on just the song that you're making and stressing about it? It's like, we can modulate, go on a run, come back, like somatically feeling in a completely different world, and then reapproach with new eyes. So, like I said before, like I do a million different mediums, and saying yes to all of them. Like people ask me, like, what do you do? And it's kind of like a very limiting question to ask anybody, really. It's like what are you? Have you questioned like, what are you? Like, what is a human? What is consciousness? Like, does anybody have those answers? But let's like put each other in boxes, essentially. So in this journey of meditation, I moved to Portland, like wanting to get into like creative agencies and all that kind of stuff. I'll continue on that. But I found photography. I went to school, got a degree in arts and technology. I had like nice cameras around all the time. Whatever reason, I just never learned how to shoot photography. Like I went to college for 4 years, paid for a degree, never once picked up the camera until like literally like 8 years later. Like I came to Portland, and what the camera did for me was it allowed me to have like purpose in every single room, and I would meet so many people. Like a lot of the relationships that I have in the city were just from taking photos and being willing to meet up with people. Like one of my good friends, he ran like a little studio called The Collab, and he was doing an event, and on Instagram said like, does this event. I had never taken photos of an event ever in my life, but I responded to the message and had the willingness to just show up and be a beginner and let go. Like everything goes back to the meditation of just being like, oh, like there is no expectation if I am a beginner. It's like, who cares? Just show up. Like I was asked to do this speaking thing like a week ago. My good friend Antha in the back, like they reached out to me, and I was like, oh, what's the thing that's gonna push me off the ledge and step into a whole new experience? It's, oh, just sharing my story and putting something together. It's like, you guys want me to succeed. Like, you want to leave here with something. So why would I create this story of how I'm not undeserving of sharing my message with you? But these are all things that we all experience. Like, they're not separate to just you. So photography opened the door to just have a reason to be everywhere and to start a conversation. And it's allowed me to work with my friends, my beautiful friends. It's allowed me to shoot a Damian Lillard music video and seeing like how every single experience leads to the next experience. And that's the whole like creative lifestyle, is like each thread leads to another larger opportunity. So why hyper focus on like the simplest detail? It's like create the work, release the work. Get the inspiration, release it, let it go. Move on to the next thing. So photography. This is like my baby. This is my podcast that I started at the beginning of the pandemic, which is basically, it's called Opening Presents. I love double entendres in words, so it's like my absolute baby, like the best like wordplay I've ever come up with. But I basically just talk to all my friends. Like, it's just anybody that I meet, like family, like just talking about meditation, creativity, growth. I think everyone has this idea that there's one way to succeed in this world, or there's one way to be, or there's one model that you have to follow, like 10 steps to higher like earnings and whatever. But it's like, through this journey, I've learned that it can be exactly how you want it to be. And this is probably like my most honest expression, because I don't have to like temper who I am. And there's things on there that I'll say that I couldn't say in like a more corporate setting, that it's like I have to be quiet. But this is a space of wanting to step into my fullness, and I can't play small anymore. Like, prior to like really like taking a self look and being like, how am I limiting myself? Do I not feel like I deserve the things that I really want? I think I kind of disqualify those limitations with this type of expression. It's like, I can't go back into the box now. Like, Dak is out. And these are all like the covers. Like, I either design them or like my friends will design them, who are all like amazing designers and stuff. And it's just an ongoing process. It's not like, oh, this one episode. No, it's like, we got the next one to do, like editing them all that kind of stuff. And projecting like what's gonna be like in the future. It's like I know I did a podcast with Vaughn's cousin, Rashonda, in investing in our relationships over the long term. It's like, that's what it is. It's like, how do we foster community? How do we foster our relationships and take the slow route? We're gonna live a long, healthy life. Like, let's invest in one another. So that's 2 creative expressions. So here's number 3. I lead meditation workshops, and at the beginning of the pandemic and around George Floyd, I started doing Instagram live videos of my meditation practice. So I'd set up my camera in my room while everybody was out like protesting in the streets. I was like, how am I best served in this whole ecosystem? Because I'm not best served screaming in the streets and mixing energy with everybody who's in a lot of pain right now. So how can I like serve and still be as truthful as I can to myself? So I would just do Instagram lives and just set the camera up and show people what my meditation practice looks like, and show that it can look exactly how you need it to look. It doesn't have to be this like Far East traditional, like Himalayan mountain yogi guru type of thing. It's like, it can look like North Portland. Like, it doesn't have to look like anything else. So I started welcoming people into their own space via my space. Shout out to Tom. And it just kind of grew. It's just like my practice deepened. I started sharing and communicating these inner landscapes that we don't really have language for, getting more comfortable speaking in public. I meditated 365 days in 2019, so every single day I meditated and wrote, and then I started a Facebook group. That's how I'm here today, is my lovely friend right here in the back with the yellow, Miss Antha, um, showed up to that, like my Facebook group, and just kept showing up. And it was a 365 days of meditation Facebook group. And like at the end of it, they reached out to me and was like, hey, I did 365 days of meditation. I'm like, you did that. Like, you did that. And you're the reason why I'm sitting here today. So we see all the through lines of like a year ago, starting that meditation group, and then I just ran into you at Hat Yai getting chicken. Like, and it's like the threads are all around us if we choose to open our eyes up, and it's like we're dancing in this creative process through life. Like, it's not just the one hyper focus on one thing. Like, it's the gym, it's the food, it's being aware of like what we're putting into our bodies, or being aware of our relationships. Like, we have a lot to take in at the same time. So yeah, I do meditation workshops for like corporate companies, like creative agencies and all that kind of stuff. So if y'all got the plug, holla at your boy, trying to get more clients. Okay, so this is the last thing. I do other things outside of this too, but this is the match. So now I am starting to collaborate with more people. And it's been an amazing thing, because it's like these are all genuine relationships that I have with people, that we come together and we come up with ideas and execute on the ideas. That's the thing, is just like, how do you get to execution? There's a through line. Yes, we can conceptualize and fantasize and all that kind of stuff, but these days it's just like, there's no rules. Like, just go do it. Like, stop holding ourselves back and stop thinking like, oh, there's gonna be a perfect time for blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's mistakes. I put stuff out with mistakes all the time. Nobody notices them. So this is the match. It's a curated dating experience in Portland. Basically just created it. It was like, hey, everyone's on dating apps these days. Like, there's not a lot of deep connection. Like, people aren't meeting in person. There's a lot of anxiety and aversion to people approaching one another in public, and we're losing that art of communication. So how do we create a space that facilitates and allows us to really connect and face those fears? This isn't like an easy thing to show up like in your suit or in your dress and to meet a stranger. It's like the whole point is the growth. So how do you create experiences that you push people off the edge, but then once they start panicking and then they're like, oh, I can fly. And those are the types of experiences that bring me the most joy. Is like, how can we invite someone to see their highest potential? It's like, no, you're gonna be safe, but you have to be brave to do it at the same time. So this is the fourth of all the things that I'm involved with, but creating a lifestyle around it and considering how meditation and my connection to spirit, everything comes from that centered space of committing the time every single day to sit in silence and just know what's authentic with me. Like, do I want to do that thing or do I not want to do that thing? And how do you create that relationship to self? So this process of self-discovery has revealed a natural inclination toward deep connection, serving community, and seeking growth. And that's kind of, that's my holistic approach, is just allowing life to inform me what it needs. And if something comes up, I trust it, we move through the process, we execute on it, and then we move to the next thing, or we hang back. But it's like there's no wrong answer to it. I think we all know what we need, and like being fearless in advocating for the thing that we need. If we need silence, like we need to get silence. If we need better health, we need to focus on the health. But that none of that time is wasted. It's all going to the right place. So I can't believe I just did a slideshow. Sweet. So I did a slideshow. Dope. How are we on time? I have 15. That was a 5-minute thing? Oh, I did 15 minutes total? Cool. Perfect. Yeah. Let's do a meditation together, and then I'll answer some questions, if that's cool. Anybody have a timer? I don't have my phone on me. How long do we want to go for? 5 minutes? Naomi says 5 minutes. I know. I get a 10 over here. You want 5 or 10? 8? I want to get a different chair too. I'm not trying to sit on that stool. I think we need to adjust the cameras to. All right, let's do 7.5 minutes. This is cool. Awesome. So we can start the timer now. We can lead into it. First, taking a few deep breaths and holding ourselves up with dignity and respect. Relaxing our shoulders. Maybe unclenching our fist or releasing the tension we may be holding in our jaw. And just feeling the sensation of each inhale and exhale. Knowing that there's nothing that we really have to do right now. We can let go of any sort of judgments of whether or not we're doing things right. Can we just surrender to this moment and find our deepest relaxation? Filling the air in our belly. And slowly letting it all go. Allowing things to be simple. Letting go of all that's not serving us. Any of those stories which have no purpose other than to distract us from this moment. We are all safe. Now can we sink even deeper into relaxation? Now if we notice the mind getting distracted, just simply noticing and guiding our attention back to the breath. Soon we'll notice that that's all this practice ever is or will be, is noticing when we get distracted and coming back to the moment. The mind is clear. The mind is sharp. The mind is wakeful. The mind is vigilant. But the body is relaxed. The body is at peace. The body is letting go. The body is free. If we notice any tension in our body, just placing our awareness on that space and taking a deep breath and letting it go, letting it go, letting it go. Noticing that we don't have to put effort into simply being. We don't have to tell ourselves to breathe. We don't have to tell the heart to beat. We can just let it do its thing. Letting go of control or the need to have control. Maybe imagining that we're at the top of a watchtower, looking over a desert, nothing in sight except for miles and miles of open desert. As we sit in this watchtower of awareness, separate from our thoughts, separate from our emotions, bearing witness to this inner landscape. Taking a deep breath and relaxing even deeper into this spaciousness. Maybe placing our awareness in our heart space. For some of us, this may be the first time we've addressed or paid attention to the heart. We may see that it's bruised. Some of our hearts may have been broken. Some of us may be protecting our hearts from the world. But let's place attention on the heart space, maybe putting our hands over our hearts and breathing into this space. Taking 3 deep breaths into our heart space. Thanking ourselves for taking this time. And take as much time as you need before we re-enter this space with one another. But this is your time. This isn't anybody else's. Thanking ourselves. And when we're ready, we can flutter our eyes back open. Don't you notice like how the energy is completely shifted into a brand new space internally and externally and in the space? Like that's what you can do on your own every single day. Like pre-speech, I'm like, oh my God, I'm on 10. And then now I'm just like, all right, cool. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. And we got some great people to celebrate today. So thank you. All right, we have 5 minutes. We got questions. Got it. All right, we need hands. So the question is, does my meditation practice take on different forms? What was the second part of that? Yeah, it's kind of just like the place that recenters me. So it's just like, am I operating in like my truth right now? And I think that's kind of like the discernment, like learning how to trust that I have good intentions instead of like constantly like going to war against like, oh, like what are my intentions with this? Or like I'm not good enough for that. It's like I've already come to the conclusion that I'm a good person. So I don't need to like justify my output. And I think it just allows the freedom to just be like exploring the curiosity because there's not this hidden devil within me that is trying to wreak havoc on the world. It's like, no. And if I make a mistake, it's fine too. And allowing myself to make the mistake and say yes to new opportunities. I think that's the thing that the practice has given me the most is just like, all right, well, if it doesn't work out, then fine. Like, it's cool. I'm still going to come back tomorrow and try something else. Yeah. Thank you. You can sign up on my website. I think it's like I break down, or the question was tips on starting and maintaining a consistent meditation practice. It really has, like the thing is, it's like, it's all coming from you. So it's like, is there a big enough reason in your life to do it? Because it's the easiest thing in the world is to skip your morning meditation. Like there's nothing easier than that. No one's ever gonna like ask you and hold you accountable to it. A lot of the times the initiator is pain for people. Like for me, like losing my mother was the thing that brought me to my practice. And I don't think that it has to be this like crisis for everybody, but like the desire has to be there. And it just putting the days like one after the other and a little 10 minutes in the morning, like, and once you experience a perspective shift, that's the thing that kind of inspires me to come back more, because I didn't know that I can look through these same eyes and have a completely different experience on the other side. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I'm turning into this like super cool person at the same time. It's like, oh, I'd rather do that than live that life that I was living before, flipping burgers and being way overweight. Any other one? Dope. Just close your eyes wherever you're. Oh, a way to catch a quick meditation sesh in a busy environment. It's literally like obviously find a safe space, but it's just closing your eyes. Just close your eyes and settle back and perceive everything that's around you and realize that like you are not the noise. And there's a deep well of like peace and quiet that lives within all of us. Sometimes that like well is like cloudy and busy, but I think if we keep coming back to it and just being curious as to what is here with me right now, like that's gonna be the thing. Yeah, that's how you're gonna get your sesh, is just the willingness to keep trying it over and over again without judging it. So the person asks, like, how do I deal with resistance? And then how do you stick through when you get kind of distracted and staying on the path? Resistance is just, I think dealing with resistance, you just have to have curiosity. Like, what is this actually? Like, what is this resistance? Where is it coming from? And it's not here to attack me, it's here to teach me. And observing that at some point, like, the resistance fades, and I wanna witness how it goes away, how it transforms, rather than running away from it and then it's gone and I don't know the point where it actually left. Let's put all of our attention on this discomfort, on the resistance, on the tension, on that feeling that we have, so we can get as much information as possible. So when it arises again, we know, like, oh, this is impermanent. This isn't gonna last forever. This is familiar to me right now. I'm making friends with this anxiety right now. So we don't get taken away by it. In the consistency part, it's just like, how bad do you want it? Is I can't tell somebody or teach somebody to show up every day. Like, that's a you thing. Like, it was a me thing. It was like, anybody who approaches their practice, you're only gonna receive from the dedication that you have to it. But yeah. One more? Yes. I think it's just like the magic of, like, the spontaneity. Like, it's all spontaneous and, like, in the moment, and it's just like, can I be present in this moment? Does this feel good in this moment? And, like, I really don't know. It's just like, it all just, like, happens, like, magically. Like I said before, like, this opportunity came up out of the blue, and knowing that it's gonna call me to a higher expression, and it's kind of scary and intimidating. It's like, oh, that's where I know I need to go. And I'm gonna connect and meet with friends and reinvest in our relationships. And this is going to lead, like, what we're doing here today is going to lead into something in the future. I already know that. So that's how I look at, like, going to, like, get lunch somewhere with somebody, or, like, meeting somebody on the street. It's like, you never know, like, what it's gonna lead into. And I'm just saying yes to everything. Yeah. Besides the donuts, because that would have messed me up. Cool. Thank you so much.